people so they can see each other.
I'm sore back. Thank you for asking.
And get our cast
See,
of
that's how I was
characters
doing.
here.
I said I have a sore back, but other than that, I'm doing fine. I took a bucket of thin set out of my truck on Friday and put it in my daughter's house.
Okay, so what you're gonna need to do.
Twisted. and it was-
Hi.
it still hurts.
So let's see, it's 4:32. Meeting's called to order.
Okay.
You're gonna need to speak up so that John can hear you.
I can hear them fine.
Oh, yeah? Wait till they
Yep.
start talking. Okay, so let's see, our agenda, everybody got it?
I have one.
Just take a
Chris has one.
quick look. Oh, I don't want to show all that.
Mike is gonna come online, he said.
Who
Mike
is?
Melody.
Thank you. So we'll wait for a minute for Mike. And I did not print the agenda, but let me just grab it.
As of last week, Mark Robbins said he was gonna try.
Yes, I saw that email.
Okay. All right, so we have our members present. Everybody, Chris, you're noting who's here? Yes, thank you.
She did write it down.
We need to approve of the bills to be paid. And do we know what those are?
Hibbert Rosa. Mhm. MHR for solar.
Okay,
Do you have
And the
do you have
amounts?
Do you have the amounts, Chris?
Hmm?
Do you have the amounts?
Here.
How much money do you want, Tom?
I already gave it to him.
A lot more than this.
I hope everybody caught
Hibbert
that.
Rosa for 11,500. And MHR for $988.98.
Did you hear that,
Got
John?
it. Got it.
Okay.
And Tom, what was the scope of the services for the bill?
That was just finishing up the construction documents phase.
Any questions, John?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to pay both bills.
A second.
Recommendation to pay both bills. We don't pay the bills. You guys pay the bills. We recommend the bills get paid.
Okay, and so that means that's a motion to pay the bills. Do you have a second?
I did.
Thank you, John. Any more discussion on that? The only thing I'd like to mention is that means that tonight we will take that before the Board of Selectmen or not. It's a recommendation to pay the bills and then the Board of Selectmen would approve it,
Correct.
correct?
That's the way we've done it thus far.
So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
Tom, you didn't say you were opposed.
Yeah, vote for it. I'm definitely for it.
Motion passes. Thank you. Does Tom vote?
Never been that.
No.
I didn't think so.
He just-
So you're abstaining, basically. We'll leave it at that. Okay, and then the next thing on our agenda was what kind of responses we're gonna do. I gotta find that again. Consideration of RFP responses to owners rep, clerk of the work, RFP and recommendations to Board of Selectmen. So what can we say about these RFPs and the responses?
Has everybody had a chance to look at these? No.
I did review both of them.
Yeah.
Both of them have relevant experience. One seems to have a little more depth in their staff than the other. But I think one is also in Connecticut, the other is out of New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, Massachusetts, yeah, I picked that up. Do they have any people in this area, do you know, Jim?
They did not expound on that.
I might grab a
And
chair.
honestly, I didn't look at that level of detail in their profiles of their personnel to see if any of them were Connecticut-based.
Mike,
No, None of them were, most of them were New Hampshire, one, I think, one or two were Massachusetts.
could you say that again, John?
Okay,
So our,
Most of the site people were New Hampshire, one or two were from Massachusetts, so nothing from Connecticut.
okay, then.
so one was from North
Haven.
Haven.
Yep.
We had two responses. One was from New Hampshire, one was from North Haven.
And I think John's referring to the one from New Hampshire, correct?
Yes. Yes,
So there was nobody in Connecticut for that one.
No,
Did I-
North Haven is in Connecticut.
Oh,
was that on the, was it ARM? They had a representative of North Haven?
I didn't print them.
Okay,
So they're right
Killing any
there,
trees.
correct?
Did you send these?
She did.
I can see it.
That was back in February, middle of February.
It's been a blur.
I don't,
So those are the RFP responses right there, correct?
they are.
So again, Jim, you were saying that the one from New Hampshire, the New Hampshire firm, has representatives in North Haven?
No, there's one company that's based out of North Haven
That's what I was thinking.
and one company that's based out of New Hampshire.
And the one in New Hampshire does not have anybody in Connecticut.
I'm
not
not,
that,
Yes, they do. They have an office in Windsor.
Ah, very good, thank you. Did you see that, John?
no. That's okay, was a big proposal, I might have missed it.
but they've both done relevant work. They both qualified on paper. We don't have any idea of overall costs from either one.
Yes, we do.
We should.
But we have hourly.
An
rates.
hourly
Oh,
rate,
wait,
Yeah.
right. We have no idea of overall cost, but we have hourly rates.
So they didn't, did they have materials where they, that we provided that in the RFP that would have indicated how much work?
I mean, I think probably all they really knew was how many square feet the roof is.
Right.
They don't
I
have,
saw
they don't have final design documents to review to give us that kind of an
This
estimate.
one has a fee schedule, yeah.
Yeah, they both have fee schedules, but they're hourly.
I don't think you need a lot of time, you do have,
Didn't one of them have, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, didn't one of them have a bunch of people that they weren't really talking clerk of the work, they were really showing other people in their firm, people in their group?
They all took-
Yeah, that was ARM.
Yeah, that was ARM.
Yeah,
And I think ARM basically, I think they're the one that demonstrated if we needed any special inspections, that they were capable of doing special inspections.
so when you say special inspections, are they inspecting their own work?
No, they would be inspecting work of others. And when when the construction documents are finalized and a building permit is filed, one of the things that the architect and engineer of record will have to provide is a list of whether any special inspections are required in accordance with the building code. And if they are, I mean, on a roof, typically the worst thing is what, an adhesion test
I wouldn't even,
or uplift.
if you're gonna do the vacuum test, I would recommend that.
Right,
Yeah, a lot of
you can get a bad experience with that.
I'll have to look and see those.
But I don't think,
Some-
I don't,
Oh, well,
right, I
So,
don't know that it's required by code. I haven't looked at the
This
code.
is not,
so at the risk of, asking a stupid question. One of them said that they could do the inspections, is that correct? They could bring in their people or whatever to do the inspections. But in reality, wouldn't that be an aspect of inspecting the work that they were overseeing?
Well, there's a difference between regular inspections and special inspections,
Okay,
right? Special inspections are inspections that are prescribed by building code. I don't know, off the top of my head, I'm not recalling any that are required for replacement.
They're not. I don't think you need a lot of hours on this. I think, the most critical time is when they move from demolition
Into the construction.
into the installation, because that's when you get to see the roof. Well, the biggest problem we're probably gonna have is finding deteriorated roofing materials, roof deck. I doubt it, but we might find an issue with sometimes connection of fastener. We don't see that a lot. We do see some deck replacement. We've done a good job keeping up with the roof leaks, which is critical. Some people, believe it or not, just let the damn building leak. And that's when I find the water gets trapped in there, the deck does deteriorate.
Okay.
We wouldn't see it, you know, we do every room look at it, but we know where to look. We look at flashings, we look at transition of roofs, like we discussed in the interview, and we didn't see any significant deteriorations. I don't expect to have a large replacement of roof deck.
So how do we weigh these two
So
proposals?
my thought is that, you know, they're both qualified on paper. If you want to make a distinction between the two, if you're gonna interview one, you might as well just interview both. It doesn't take that much longer.
So the interviews would be done by this committee, is that correct?
Correct.
I'd recommend that. I don't want to slow up any process, but I would think that you'd want them to come in and actually talk to us.
I think that just makes the most sense to me.
Okay. I'm just gonna go back to the
I
agenda.
don't think we need to vote on that necessarily, but if we essentially agree by consensus, then, you know, we can work together to set up those interviews.
And I would suggest we do that as soon as possible.
Agreed.
Now, do we need somebody there 24 hours a day?
No,
Or can we just, you know, I don't think we need somebody there all the time,
As I said, I think,
a couple days a week maybe, because I'm gonna be overlooking projects as well.
yeah, we're gonna have the way the spec is written too, a manufacturer's rep is gonna be there.
Right, they have to, right? I mean,
That's actually the most important thing, because
at the end of the day,
there's
we want
always,
their warranty.
yeah, and there's always some small emergent condition. We take things apart. It isn't exactly the way we thought it was. It was great if the rep is there to say, you can do it this way and we will warranty that installation.
Right.
It all work together.
You also have to pay attention to what's in the agreement that was part of the RFP as far as duties and how often whoever it is supposed to be there and
Right.
when and whatever.
So the clerk of the work needs to be there at least once a day. Is that correct?
It depends on what it says in the agreement that was part of the RFP.
And what do we have in there?
I wouldn't even say every day. I would say the days that there's demolition, because the way this works is they're gonna put down two-ply roof, they're gonna put down for the demolition, they're gonna put the insulation in, they're gonna do the base sheet. On iffy days, they're gonna wait to put the cap sheet on, because if they get a day that's got some rain in the afternoon, they'll just install cap sheet. So there isn't much inspection.
So when you have the work, when there are work crews there, who's overseeing the work crews?
A lot of times we don't have a clerk of the work, we rely upon just the company. We're fortunate in central Connecticut, and this is what is the central Connecticut area, we have very good contractors who have been.
The architect.
What's, and how many companies could we end up having there at the same time? Because they have to be able to coordinate.
That's Christine Abercoff,
Well,
Sorry?
the roofing contractor,
architect.
PC. He'll have a sub he'll have a plumbing sub and a masonry sub, and that's it. Yeah, the electrician is very minor. The plumbing, some roofing companies like Silktown and Commercial have their own plumber. And you have a masonry sub, and they have relationships with people, so they've got coordination pretty good. They know what's expected of them. They always work with a group of masons, they have 3 or 4, that's it. And they just have a relationship, they know what's expected of them.
So,
Coordination really isn't that big an issue.
And the general contractor is generally gonna be the one who coordinates all of that. You know, that internal stuff.
You gotta watch it too. The town's gonna sign a contract with a GC, a sub town, a commercial and imperial. The other subs work for him, so, you know, it's not a. you know,
Just
you-
want to make sure that we've got
can't
the,
do- You can't tell those subs to do too much direction without.
You gotta go
going
through
through
the
the GC. They're generally pretty cooperative, you know, Mike's out there, he's gonna be talking to him every day. And, you know, little things aren't a big issue, but we can't just take control of the mason or the plumbing sub. They're very cooperative, you know, Mike goes over and he's got a different area, hey, could you stay out there and work on these drains over here? He's got like 5 or 6 roof things, you can start on that end. You know, those sorts of things are pretty easily worked out.
so tell me one more time in a nutshell what the clerk of the works does.
The clerk of the works oversees the job, is gonna be doing the inspections, you know,
Okay.
general, and he should be documentation. I mean, every day we should be getting photographs moving through this.
That's why I was thinking that maybe
Yeah.
the person would be there every day, at least for a period of
And
time.
he's documenting and doing some daily reports.
Alright.
I think on a rainy day, you got a 4-hour day, it's just gonna be cap sheet, not really
That's a
necessary.
different story.
And I
Won't the general be,
First thing-
Yes, John?
won't the general be communicating with him most of all?
And hi, Mark.
Hello.
It works, it doesn't really take his direction, shouldn't really be taking all his direction from the GC. He works for the
He
town.
works for the town.
Okay,
So, I mean, certainly we want somebody who can work with him, he should certainly listen to the GC and take everything he says and, you know.
Make it
incorporate
happen.
it. Yeah,
And
exactly, yeah.
verify it.
But he still works for the town.
okay.
He's your eyes on the project on a regular basis. Where your building inspector is gonna be there intermittently. And Mike still has another job to do, right? And the Board of Selectmen decided that they wanted to have an owner's rep.
Mhm.
So that when Mike was busy, or maybe he might actually wanna go on vacation.
What?
You know,
Permanently.
I think one of the things that's
not
great,
this year.
I think one of the things that's good about the clerk of the works is he should be doing photographs, doing a daily report. It's comprehensive, we should be getting, should do the weather, should do the personnel that are on site, the jobs they're doing, where they're working, and doing some photographic documentation. Like I said, the
Just
first thing.
Just as a small aside, what happens if a worker gets hurt? Who manages that? How does that work?
That all is under the umbrella of the general contractor.
Okay.
And
Okay,
one of the things that we collectively have to do is make sure that they have liability insurance and workers' comp insurance.
got it.
You know, that's part of our responsibility as we oversee and award a contract.
Okay. All right, so the general contractor is the one driving.
Right.
The clerk of the work is making sure things are documented and keeping an eye on everything to make sure that nothing falls between the cracks.
Yes, and he should be, what we always try to do is find one person on the GC side, and certainly the clerk of the works, who should be in contact with. This Mike's probably running a job, I don't think Cindy wants this, but just get into daily contact with him. And we've also got to communicate to you where we're moving with the project, what roofs
Exactly.
we're working over. No one can be underneath the roof that is being worked on, especially during demolition. And you should make plans to an alternate site for a week or so with your office, because we're gonna be going above that. So you
Yes.
can switch.
Yep.
You're
off
welcome to
roof.
come here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that and summer
I will
school.
talk to
Awesome.
Make sure
Right,
summer
Yeah,
school's
it's
at a safe
So
zone.
they have to.
right.
They have to supply,
All the paperwork.
they have to supply the paperwork.
Yeah, I
for
know,
certified
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
One conversation at a time so everybody can hear. So, what were you saying?
Chris had a question about prevailing wage, and I said, yes, it's a prevailing wage project, and the general contracting firm will have responsibility to provide documentation of certified payroll.
Yes, when do we go to Commission on Human Rights? Because you have to do that now.
Well, we don't, the GC does all the CHRO paperwork.
We have to inform CHRO that we're doing a project. We've had to do that twice already this year. CHRO is becoming.
When we did that, did we act as the general contractor?
Excuse me?
When we had to do that, were we acting as the general contractor for whatever it was?
No, it's our project. We have to make sure the Commission on Human Rights knows what the scope of the project is
Right,
and gives whoever the general contractor, presumably all the paperwork that they're gonna have to do for prevailing wage and meeting all the requirements.
Minority
Commission.
participation.
Mhm.
again, who's doing that paperwork?
GC,
Apparently you have to make a notification, but the GC does a lot of paperwork for CHRO.
Mhm.
And it is notoriously slow for getting approved. We will be starting this project before they get the formal approval.
So this is be kind to the GC
Yeah, it's there's a lot of.
paperwork. It's not good.
It's not they don't have a great, they aren't loved by a lot of people, CHRO, put it that way. But I would not make any notification because I still gotta finish up the corrected paperwork, which I hope to get in the next few days. And then we'll get our final approval for the project. And I wouldn't go before that because then it is official.
Okay. All right, I think, hang on a sec. Let's do this again. All right. So RFP responses, we already have talked about how we're gonna have a review, I'm sorry, interviews. Okay.
do we have consensus that we should interview both?
I'm sorry, what did you say, John?
That's a great idea,
What was a great idea?
interviewing both of them.
Yes,
Seems like there's consensus.
yes, there's super consensus on that. All right, and now, so we really can't give the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen yet. We have to do those interviews first. So I'll just figure out the timing of that. Should we move on to the next item, which is review of engineering report? Are we ready to do that?
I think so.
Okay. Let's talk. So the engineering report,
Yes. The structural, yeah, we worked through a few issues. Someone had a question about how much weight we're removing and putting back on.
oh, you're talking about when we talked to the state?
Mary?
Uh,
No, I'm talking about Panoni. Which, are you talking about the structural engineering report for the PV,
I don't know, you're speaking in acronyms.
voltaics?
I'm gonna talk to you in IT acronyms if you don't stop. That'll blind you.
Yeah, so
I better bring Dave for.
So the
So
engineering report,
the engineering report that I have is from January 22nd, 2024 from Panoni.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been additional work since this draft
That's-
report.
Chris, do we have that?
I got it from Chris, so
Okay, sorry, I didn't see it.
We had a little bit of issue we went back and forth on, and Mike had to go up and take a sample of the weight of the rock.
Oh.
And they were worried that it was so much that if we were actually gonna be reducing the weight significantly, and it was actually worried about wind uplift taking up the entire deck.
that was one of my questions.
Yeah, well, Mike went up and we did a
Hi, baby.
of a 3-foot square
Yeah,
of rock, put it in a bucket, weighed it, and it turned out it's the difference between what we're removing and what we're replacing is only a couple pounds less. The new roof will only be a couple pounds less. So
so the roof,
based upon the past performance of the roof, there was no issue. That was the big issue structurally. So that
okay, so
has
the
been
roof is not going
resolved.
to fly off.
And it was a chip deck too. It weighs like 8 pounds a square foot. It's fly off anyway.
Sound comes in.
Metal deck is a real concern. This is a point. And yeah, so we've got some extra weight capacity in the building, so we're good. So we can easily afford. What happens with PV, everybody said the panel weighs 10 pounds a square foot, but by the time we space them out so that they don't catch shadow on each other, it ends up being about 3 pounds a square foot, and that should not be a problem. And historically, in the state of Connecticut, all the school buildings I've looked at of this vintage,
Recording in progress.
the engineers put a good safety factor into them structurally.
So, and that's where I had questions, because this report seems to fall a little short of what my expectation was. Because at the end of the day, I expected this report to, A, tell us that we could put a roof on, replace the roof with the roof that you have planned out for us. And B, that, you know, areas A, B, C, and D could hold the weight of the solar array, and maybe area X, Y, and Z couldn't. And at the end of the day, the building inspector is gonna be looking for that information.
That report has just been produced.
Okay,
That states
I
that information.
haven't seen that
I
yet.
was literally having that conversation, I think, the day after we did the PCR review.
Okay,
Okay,
So
so
it's-
what we
we are-
expect is there'll be more of this engineering report that's forthcoming.
and this one does say that it's a draft.
Yeah,
And that's the issue, that was the big issue, it was that one roof area, the other roof areas are fine, and it,
And there was one roof area that they said they didn't evaluate because it was a drop ceiling.
Well, they couldn't get at it and they
it
had,
might be hard.
It says a drop ceiling.
say that again, John?
I saw
they
that.
couldn't evaluate it because of the drop ceiling and there were no drawings available either, I think.
Do we know where the drop ceiling is?
Yeah, it's called out in the report.
Report itself is actually pretty short, there's a lot of pictures here, so I'm sure I can find it pretty quickly.
Hold on.
So while you're looking for that, when all is said and done, we have to have the report finalized and approved by when?
I think it is finalized. Yeah, actually.
Not if we're missing those pieces. This is the draft.
It has been finalized in the last 2 days or a day or
So
so.
this.
Area one,
Yeah, it says in area one, no existing drawings for the area were found. And aside from a small section of higher ceiling at the north side, the existing framing was unable to be observed due to the drop ceilings.
The old gymnasium.
What area?
Area one.
Area one's the old gymnasium or
Well, this
Cindy's
is,
off district
they're
office.
talking about this piece right here. There's a drop ceiling in there. I mean, there's a drop ceiling in all of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim, has anybody, have we decided where the solar is gonna go at this point? I know you just addressed the
Well,
fact.
that's a coordination effort that's still, I think, ongoing between Tom and Mark, and that's, you know, one of the things I hope to discuss a little bit today, since we have both of them.
Well, but based on that too, how much do they, I'm sure they know the weights of these structures?
You do.
They do.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, by the time you put the PV on, and you put the circulation space around it, and you spread them out so that you don't have one solar panel casting shadow onto another, the weight gets down to about 3 pounds a square foot, which is
Pretty much.
that's minimal, and historically, school buildings in Connecticut have been built well enough with big enough safety factor that that's not gonna be an issue.
I think that wasn't the case based on one area though, because I think the new roof is about 6 PSF. And they were saying it had a dead load capability of, I think, 8. So there may be one area that's off limits.
I'll have to contact Mark, he hasn't back, he's had the finished roof plan for a while now as a CAD drawing.
So
Mark is with us.
You started to.
Want to come off mute, Mark?
Yes, hi, good afternoon.
Hi, thank you for,
So, yep, no, my pleasure. And so, right, so area one, no plans found, that is the first part of the building that was built. And when you enter on your left is the electrical service. So that is a section of the built that we were intending of using for solar. So that would be very helpful. I don't know that it's a deal killer if we can't, but it does inform the design. So knowing that the initial, first section of the building, area number one, determining whether or not that can support, like Tom was suggesting, the dead weight in the range of, I would say, we'd like to 5 to 6 pounds per square foot, would be very helpful to know. So that informs the design of the solar system.
Mark, in the older structures, were the service factors a little bit beefier?
Generally speaking, yes. But working against us is as the new code is adopted, there's more uplift criteria, especially at the edges where we have parapets. So we may look at not actually relying on ballasts at the corners of some of the solar arrays, and relying on what we had discussed as being a roof anchor or a mechanical attachment that is actually going to engage the roof deck below. And that is going to prevent uplift, and also will actually have the net effect of less loading on the roof.
So,
Yeah, we would like to know, do you guys see area? I mean, I could screen share the plan here, but area
okay,
one.
You mentioned roofs with parapets. We don't have any parapets on this building. I think parapets would actually decrease the wind uplift, but.
very good.
So
Let's see.
this is the area one is the section that we're looking to find the engineering on. So that's where you enter.
Maybe it done in the newest report, or you're not sure.
Will that area provide enough room for all the solar we're looking for?
Oh no, it's just a component of
Right.
it, just a section of it.
Okay.
I think area one might be workable now because we took the ballast, which was heavier than the new roof that we're putting back.
That's where I took my
Yeah.
sample, right
Yeah.
where no is on area one, that's where I took the 3x3
Yeah,
sample.
if you remember, we discussed that a while back. We would all be shocked if that area doesn't supply enough loading to support
Yeah,
solar.
'cause
Or as of the date of the draft engineering report, we don't have that information.
Okay, so what we want to do is we want to maybe list the things that are missing at this point to make sure that we include those in the engineering report.
How much did that bucket weigh?
44.4 5-pound bucket.
Is that a yes?
Yes. I was trying not to talk at the same time as others.
Yeah, we're.
All right, so
the
what are we
stone-
missing?
The stone itself is 5 pounds a square foot that we're taking off that isn't going back. So
Okay,
we're probably picking up 4 pounds a square foot. Right, just our new roof is just a mineral surface, so we're taking off about 5 pounds of stone. The new roof system has got a little bit deeper insulation, so it will weigh a little bit more. So we probably got about a 4-pound delta in weight that we're taking off.
all right, so
So I
going
think-
back,
I think the new report will say that area one will work.
so going back to Mark's comment, for solar, we need 5 to 6 pounds per square foot, and you're saying there's plenty.
Oh, I think we got an easy 4. So I think the new report will give us, will give us the ability to put solar on that.
Do you have any sense of when we'll get that for review, Tom?
We should get it the next day or so.
Mark, can I just throw in an aside? When solar was put on this building, the town office building, it was put on in a way that when it snows or we get ice, it slides off of the solar arrays and onto the walkway below, which is where the door is. So when solar goes onto the school roof, if I recall, area one has the front of the building there. Trying to get myself
The
oriented.
panels will be facing towards
No,
the
no, no.
soccer field though.
Say it again.
The panels will be facing towards the soccer field because the sun comes up.
So
from
we'll be
lower
good.
goal. Yeah,
We're gonna have.
And the snow won't come off the roof.
do a little visual
It'll stay
here.
on the roof and melt.
Your panels are gonna be in
Okay.
rows like
'Cause we don't
this,
have enough
facing
slope.
south.
Yeah.
So this is only gonna be about 3 feet, so there's probably gonna be close to a couple feet between them.
Okay.
So the snow's just gonna slide off onto the roof, and this is.
This
is
one
just
has
enough-
much more slope.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
this is
get,
probably like a 7-8 pitch.
yes,
This is gonna be like probably 15 degrees roughly angle,
Mhm.
Mark.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a 3.5 foot run.
I just
Much
thought
lower slope, so it will slide off, but it's not gonna go onto the sidewalk, it's gonna go onto.
I'm the
roof.
layman, I just thought I'd
Yeah,
check.
so you're gonna have, you have space in between. It'll
Okay.
just fall down
Okay,
onto the roof, and it
It'll
won't
sit
have,
there and melt.
and it won't have the impact, it's not falling down
And drain, it'll drain.
18 feet to the ground.
good point. It's a challenge.
Other than area one, Mark, where else are you proposing solar?
Oh, so we're proposing, so if we look at the early feasibility plan, we've got several areas. We need to do an update on the electrical usage at the building to just true up that. But we were looking at a system about a 240 kW system. So I can pull up the feasibility study. We were looking to put it in several of the areas, not just on one
I gotta
section.
just add one thing about the snow falling. These solar panels are gonna be in at least 6 feet from the edge. Correct, Mark? So we don't put them right up to the edge of the building, it'd probably be at least 6 feet buffer around the edge, correct?
Well, so two things on the school, we would have at least a 4 foot setback from the roof edge, subject to fire marshal, because they want to be able to bring a ladder up to the roof edge and that a fireman could step off without stepping onto a panel. So they want, at least a 4 foot setback from the roof edge. But this is a relatively flat roof system, so we're not going to be anticipating any snow to be shearing off onto the ground like you may have at Town Hall. At Town Hall, it sounds like we need to install some snow catches or snow breaks, especially over the egress ways.
Right.
So that's something that could be easily done. We can do that. I'd have to take a look at the roof there, but we can even attach snow breaks to the panel racks so that they're not attached to the roof per se. We'd have to take a look at the condition. You definitely don't want snow.
So it doesn't happen often, but it's enough to be of some concern.
So
So,
even in the heavy snow, all the snow that's on those panels, with the buffers that's set up with the 4 feet with the space in between the panels, should all just shed to the roof. And it's not gonna come off, it's only gonna drop a foot or so. So it's not gonna come off with the impact that you get on the town hall.
do we already know the company that is going to? I mean, maybe this is a crazy question because maybe it's Mark, the company that's actually going to put the solar arrays up there?
No, so we're going to be releasing, so I'm anxious to release the RFP so that we can competitively source, procure that through a competitive bid. So MHR is drafting an RFP. And so some of the exhibits that we need so that we could solicit those counterparties.
Yeah,
We need to define the area available for solar. So that's why getting clarity on the engineering report is important. And
okay,
then the expected installation time, when they can mobilize to do work. So the critical thing there is that if we said that they can start to mobilize to install the solar once the roof is completed, so let's say that is in the fall. We just to back that up, the contractor won't order any material until they have interconnection agreement from Eversource. And that interconnection agreement requires a single line engineered agreed solar plan to be submitted to the utility. And the utility can take 1 or 2 months easily, maybe 3, to review the plan and release a conditional letter of approval. And that is the time that the contractor actually then orders the material, which can take a month or two. So I'm anxious to get to a point where we can solicit the contractors to answer your question and release the RFP for the solar project.
So we anticipate that the roof is going to be essentially in place in August, by the end of August. It may
Substantial
take,
completion, yes.
there may be some additional work or leftover work that has to be completed after that. That's correct?
Yes,
So then when we talk about the solar going on the roof, it sounds like that's months after that. And
Hopefully
I
it's
don't
too
know
far after
what
that.
time of year they install. I should know. My grandson is a foreman in a solar company. So just trying to extrapolate and go, how long before the school will have solar?
Mark, how long would it take to install this solar system of that size?
So so the good news is we have a one-story building. We have a low roof and we don't have a pitched roof. So it's easy to use a lull and start to install the solar system once materials on site. And we've been successful at working through the winters by and large, or at least up until late December over the
Yep.
last few years. So I would give us, we want some flexibility for weather, subject to weather. But I'd like to say 90 days.
90 days from completion of the roof.
Yes.
And that's assuming you get all the utility
Lined up.
approvals. done.
So just to back, so that it would be good exercise to just to walk through a calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Right, but so we're gonna need to do a couple things. One is we're gonna need to extend the Eversource rec contract. We have a rec contract with Eversource whereby if we install a solar system, we put in a meter on that solar system. It's called a performance-based incentive. And based on the production of the solar system, Eversource will provide financial payments to the counterparty. If you own the system, you get the payment. If we have a third party investing in owning the system like you have on the town hall, those credits are assigned to the counterparty in return for a lower cost of power. But we're gonna have to extend that ZREC agreement in April. It terminates in April, so we can do 6-month extensions. So we're gonna have to fulfill a form and submit a $600 deposit to extend it for 6 months as of April 1st. And that extends our permit runway, if you will. We may have to do it twice.
So the permits, when it comes to the permits, does the town pay the permits?
Board of Selectmen can vote to waive permit fees.
Yeah, I would think typically we would do that.
But we can't waive the permit fees to the utility.
All you can waive is the town building permit fee.
And
All
this,
we can waive is the town building permit fee.
right,
We can't waive the state
Understood.
educational fee,
understood.
and we can't waive the fees that are due to the Connecticut Green Bank or the utility.
Got it.
Right, that's the permit that I was referring to. It's an extension of the ZREC tariff agreement. That's about $650, I believe. We were gonna have to extend that. We had an approval from Eversource 2 years ago. And we're timing out on our approval to participate in the legacy solar program, which is no longer being offered. They've sort of defunded it. So it's important to keep the economics alive on this. So in April, prior to April 1st, we need to submit an extension.
You need an authorization from us to do that, Mark?
We may, but we should make that now. I think our consulting agreement it gave us that we have a paragraph countersigned by the town whereby we're authorized to make applications on your behalf, but we may need an affidavit from you or somebody to sign off on it. So that's a good point. That would be a good thing to, get.
Can you let us know?
Yes, we'll let you know.
Thank you.
But I did want to speak about another aspect of the solar system. Just for due diligence, you may choose not to go down this route. But the Federal Inflation Reduction Act created something called a direct pay provision, which means that nonprofits prior to a year ago didn't have any benefit, didn't have a tax credit benefit. They couldn't monetize or appreciate the advantage of investing in qualified clean energy equipment like solar, battery, geothermal, and so forth. But under the Federal Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, nonprofits, namely municipalities, towns, if they owned a qualifying energy asset like a solar system, battery system, car charger, geothermal, they can receive a direct federal payment equal to what would have been a tax credit for a for-profit. So we're looking at a 30% of the total project cost. If you were to own the solar system, you would receive a base 30% federal funding in connection with your 990 filing. So that's sort of just to be aware of. And the reason all the power purchase agreements like you have with the town hall with a third party that owns and operates it for you, like a vending machine, all that complicated structure was really developed to figure out a workaround because nonprofits didn't have any tax equity. So how can they get a third party involved to appreciate the tax benefit? But through the IRA, it levels the playing field. So you would get a federal payment, a check from the IRS equivalent to what a taxable entity benefits from. And that moves the needle by 30%, okay? But I'm just curious, and I had a couple conversations with Tom offline about this. If you are benefiting from state funding for the roof, and I understand Tom connected me with Tom Rowe at the Educational Service Department, and he indicated that the state would, if the municipality owned the solar system, there is a pathway whereby, and we have to go through the same procurement method, competitively procured with, prevailing wage and so forth, which we're doing anyway. But I thought it would be good information for you for when we do this solicitation, we ask for pricing both ways, assuming the investor owns and operates it, and also give us a price if we were to own it ourselves. And you would then keep all the credits generated by Eversource, the credit agreement that we're talking about extending. Those would be cash credits going to you. Plus, you would get the 30% cash upfront federal incentive and potentially some cost share by the state of Connecticut. And I just sort of wanted to see what that math looks like. Like what would be the net cost to you? Just super high level, if we were super successful and we could secure all three of these credits in such a way that they're compatible, not exclusive of each other. But if we were to say, let's say it's $100 solar system cost, but the state of Connecticut, we were able to get a 20 or 30% cost share from the state of Connecticut. And if that cost share is not exclusive of a federal cost share, does that mean between the two 30% we could get to 60, which means you'd be owning a solar system for 40 cents on the dollar, and you would enjoy the economic benefit of any power it generates is power you never pay for from your supply or distribution supplier, Eversource. Plus, you would keep the quarterly cash payments, these REC payments, instead of assigning them to your investor, you would keep them and cash that check from Eversource quarterly for the next 15 years. So I thought it'd be worth just having a discussion with the Connecticut, just so we know your options.
I think that would be healthy.
Basically, like I was just sort of fantasizing that what if you're with the reserve fund, what if your unused, let's say, contingency funds from the roofing project could actually go to cover the cost of owning the solar system and just run the numbers for you, showing you what the payback would be.
I don't know that, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know based upon the plan that we have and the financing we're trying to do that you can use those monies from the project for the solar based upon sitting in, that walkthrough we did last week.
Well, the
I-
money that we talked about was, you're correct, defined as roofing money, that's what you put your grant application in
That's what
for.
it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, and you're not, you're right. You're
So I don't know if
thinking-
you can
you're trying to
cross
work it
over
up
that
top, can't
line.
do that.
If you could, if there's a way to do it, that's great, but I don't know, you can.
By marrying the project
And I
together.
could, so I could
That's
see
essentially
Tom
kind of
sitting back
something.
going, wait a minute here.
You know, they weren't,
I'd love to know what the options are. So that we can make a good
So,
choice.
so Tom, architect, put me in touch with the fellow at the state, Thomas Rowe. And he wrote back to me saying, Mark, thank you for your email. I'd be happy to meet with you and discuss the economics. However, the town of Ashford is our actual client. They would also need to be on the call with us. Let me know if you wish to arrange that. Wayne, that PS, we only fund solar project where the district owns the system and they own the ZRECs. So that's what we're talking about. That's the scenario that we're talking about. So anyway, I thought it would just be good to know. I mean, maybe we can't have all of these benefits simultaneously, but I would just like to I would just like to see if the state would
Right.
co-fund the solar, and if those state funds wouldn't discredit or disqualify this federal program as well.
Exactly. So, so at the table here, what's your thinking about that?
Mark,
years ago, I did something like this, and I don't want to get into specifics now because they're constantly changing.
I was just saying, the rules different now?
Every year,
Mhm.
every year. The reimbursement rate's about 60. If you potentially, I think, could get the federal tax grant and money from the state of Connecticut, but guaranteed it would be something less than 60%. Might be
Well,
50,
would it have to
55
go
range.
through as a separate project?
Yes.
Yes,
So we would apply for a separate
A separate project.
project,
yes.
and it would be the going rate for whatever it is
At
at the
that time.
moment that
Yep.
that you
Based on
apply.
all those factors that they.
Correct. I know
Yeah.
right now it's 65%,
Well,
where
65.
for the project we had was 63%.
Yeah. And
The
it's- you
roof
never
project
get-
is
you never get to
63.
65,
How
you
does,
get
how does it
something less.
impact us if, in fact, we at least investigate this? Does it delay
I
anything we're
think
doing?
we'd be foolish not to investigate.
Thank
And
you.
that's the conversation that Mark and I have had by email.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So-
I think we had one phone conversation.
So Mark, that
So
sounds
they're
like a
looking
good
for-
idea.
It was-
So I wrote back I copied, I can't remember who I shared this with. I think some of you at the meeting today, I forwarded this email to you that we received from the state. But they want someone, I mean, I wrote back and said, well, I'm working on behalf of the town as owner's agent, but I copied other stakeholders in this. But so somehow we need to, the state said they'd be happy to talk about it, but they wanted a representative of the client, not just the consultant, to be on the call. So if someone would be available to join the call.
Who would best, who would be best for that?
And it doesn't have to be one person, it could be a couple people.
Right. And those people might be,
I don't know. I think it should include somebody from the selectman's office. Beyond that,
I'll be there.
beyond that, I think it could be any of us
Okay.
or all of us.
I wouldn't mind sitting in, it doesn't hurt me to
I-
keep abreast of things.
I think that would be wise.
I think we
Because
set up
it's
the
through the
call and see
state.
who's available,
All right.
but let's base it mostly on your schedule and Mark's schedule.
So Mark, would you be willing to set up the call, knowing who the people are here?
Yes, that'd be terrific. Yep, it'd be
Okay,
great to find
So
out.
one of them's me. Another one is Chris Abakoff. I'm taking her everywhere with me. Okay, another one is Tom. Who else wants to get in on this action? I think it should be you.
I think it should be me because it's through the State Board
Right,
of
you would
Education.
have to do the grant application.
I would have to do the grant
Exactly.
application, and the state is our kind of, yes.
Okay.
So
Let me
we
know
need
what
to
it
be-
is. If I can make it, I'll make it.
Okay, get crazy and put all of us on there.
Okay. Well, so
Okay.
Tom,
Who
what-
can make
just-
it, we'll make it.
Or send it to Chris and Chris can forward it out to the group.
I mean, so Tom, just
Don't
spitballing.
make her do
here.
any more work than
I
she
just
has
don't know
to.
if he has everybody's email.
Do you have everybody's email, Mark?
I do.
You should have it from this meeting.
Yep, I do. So just Tom, just like to set expectations, just a wild ass guess. What do you think if we did qualify in our racks and inverters and we had, proper procurement through the RFP and prevailing wage and all that good stuff? What do you think we could expect the state to co-fund as a percentage of the solar
Well,
project?
you said it was gonna be, right now the town gets 65. I think total with the feds and what the state would come in with, I think you go with 55, I think you could beat that. You might get a little bit more. You never get your 65%. But I would,
Okay, but you're saying that how much would the state fund?
well, what the federal is 30%, right?
The Federal Inflation Reduction Act program is 30%.
You're
And the way, but you will have to pay the money. There is a sort of a timing. There is a timing of funds issue, a bridge funding criteria. Because typically if you're gonna own the system and you're gonna, hold the contracts where the town is, the contractors are gonna want to get paid when they install it. Not when the federal funds come back to you after your 990 filing a year later. So there's a little bit of a bridge funding.
Right,
just
so the town
cash flow.
has to approve
Got it?
whatever that
Well,
cost is.
Correct.
Through
Okay.
whatever that is.
Well,
Referendum.
We're just rolling money.
maybe we'll just do it.
You think?
We'd be looking at that expenditure next year or this year.
Well, you'd be spending the money, I hope, to install a solar system this fall.
24.
And you'd be getting the money back, like based on when there's a 990E filing and you get the money back when you show proof of payment and there's a whole affidavit along with that. But there's definitely some timing of funds to be dealt with. But in terms of the rates, I mean, is it fair to assume that the state might fund 50% and the feds might fund 30?
So you get a total of 80?
Yeah, is that too
I don't
optimistic?
think so. I think
No.
the state is gonna say your reimbursement rate is 65%. And I don't know that this is true, but they did something similar to this years ago. I was involved with one, and I think that, 65, they're not 65%, they're gonna take some things out. So you're not gonna get the 60% reimbursement. You're gonna get the 60%, and then they're gonna take out the Fed. So they're gonna do the delta from the federal contribution up to 60%.
So your best guess would be 55 to 60%.
Yeah, and I always like to, it's always easier to see the percentage go up than down, so I'm a 55%
So
guy.
are you willing to bet lunch on that?
No,
Because I was gonna say, in Paris?
it's like.
So, I mean, I think we're talking about just high level, $600,000 project, $600,000 project. So just order of magnitude before the 30% and the 30, that's the gross cost.
I was thinking of million, it's less than I thought.
What were you thinking over here?
I was thinking it was like a $1 million project. I didn't realize it was under $1 million.
Yeah, so the gross cost,
And that makes a difference in my opinion.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
so I'm gonna say
How would you-
600, 625,000 gross.
Could you say that one more time,
Sorry.
please?
I mean, let's say it came in at 230 a watt all in with prevailing wage. I mean, worst case, maybe 235 a watt. We've got a single story building. We're over 200 kW. So if we're installing about times 275, maybe with contingencies, a $640,000 project. I mean, that includes contingencies, MHR fees, bonding. 640,000 worst case, maximum gross cost.
So
And
what,
then,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. So what did it change in your opinion, Jim?
Well, because it doesn't take that long for it to pay for itself.
Yeah, it's a 5-year payback.
Good point.
Well, if you got all of the, that's what I'm interested to put, to share with you, to create an analysis, because I think it could be less than a 5-year payback. It could be in a couple of years. If you get all these incentives. I just have never, the most important question is, what would the state contribute roughly? And does that disparage or discredit whatever we get federally, or is it compatible? And of just understanding that, I think it'd be just interesting. And then and then we can, when we do the RFP, we can ask for pricing both ways.
Right.
Because I think, you know, if you're out of pocket, if you're out of pocket expense after reimbursements from state and federal government is around $320,000, I just, between not having, essentially not having to pay for electricity and getting your quarterly Z-Rec credits, I don't think this thing takes long to pay for itself.
That would be attractive.
I mean, what's our monthly electric bill now?
Cindy,
I couldn't, I don't know. Sorry.
You know,
Why don't you ask her how
I
many?
guess I would like your,
Building.
I wanna say,
Is it broken down in the budget?
I'll bet you you're paying.
I'm sure it is.
I'll bet you're paying around 20,000 a year for electricity.
Someone have something to say again over here on the screen?
Thank
Well,
you.
it's in your budget. You budgeted for it.
well, it just is a lot of nuances. One of the things are these rec payments that we get from Eversource, quarterly rec payments. And I'd have to look at the feasibility study we did. But so if you were to assign those or pledge those to the investor, like I think you did at the town hall, that investor cashes those checks from Eversource, but it's taxable revenue. For you, you would be cashing those checks tax-free. So there's sort of an adder. Like, there's more economic benefits if you were to cash those checks, because I think you keep all the net proceeds from Eversource every quarter, as opposed to being discounted.
That's kind of exciting. Anything that brings in revenue is very exciting.
But Mark, that's under the ownership plan, correct?
Right. Right.
So-
And then we'd have to be taking on the maintenance of it. So we'd have to set aside some,
Ask.
couple $100 a month for a maintenance set aside reserve fund in case we have to replace inverters in year 10, things like that. But basically, I was asking if you think this is worth at least exploring because of the state program and this new federal IRA.
Yeah.
If you could allocate a few extra hours for MHR to host this call,
Are you listening?
and then we can try to run the numbers, and then if it looks compelling, include it as a ad alternate in the RFP when we get pricing.
Table, what do you think?
She just looked at the cost of power. It doesn't, at $55,000 a year, it doesn't take long to pay for itself.
Right. So based upon what he was just suggesting, this is a quiz.
I'm,
Did you hear what he was suggesting?
Yes, he suggested when we go out for the RFP,
It's
we
good.
asked them to submit in both ways.
I like you. Yeah, go on.
I think it's a no-brainer.
I think it's,
I
think
agree, it's a
definitely-
no-brainer.
Okay. All right, so you'll set up the meeting.
Okay, yep,
Can I ask a question, Mark?
yep.
So, owning them, does that have, is there a difference with the responsibility of watching the power, generating the power, and how much? Because I know that at a school, they have their panels turned off because something happened with the switch off between the school and the power company. There wasn't an agreement So is it easy, does it fall on the responsibility of the owner to make sure that all of that Eversource work and making sure that the power purchase is all set up? Am I
Well,
making
yes, it's a very good point. And so this is not easy. It's another dimension to the requirements, but you have a good consultant, very experienced, and we're going to make sure that we've documented all of these critical path items. There's compliance, there's filing with Pura for these certificates, and yeah, so there's a lot of project development steps. So it's basically like a vending machine, but you decide you want to own the vending machine and keep the revenue. But you do have some maintenance criteria. We're going to have to make sure that you have easy visibility into the production of the inverters, a website. It'll be on the networked, right? And then additionally, if you do go down the path of owning the system, we want to make sure it's in your best interest to make sure we're buying the upgrades for the long-term warranty on the panel racks and inverters, so we don't have gotchas. So there is, yeah, you're shifting the operational. Good thing there's not a lot of moving parts for Michael to deal with. But we do want to make sure that we get you the inverter packages, the extended warranties, and we have performance criteria as part of our contracts. In other words, if we design a solar system with a vendor, now we're shifting, it's to our benefit that it works properly. So we do what's called a measurement verification criteria, that we don't issue the final payment to the contractor till it proves that it's performing as we expected, for example. So there is some additional protections in the agreement for that.
and that the power that Eversource can handle what comes back into their system off of our system, correct?
Right, so that's a net, so this is a net meter. We have a conditional agreement with Eversource. That was that tariff agreement.
Yep,
And you're under a legacy plan, they're no longer offering. But at a high level, what that means is that we expect solar system makes its most energy in the summer. And with many schools, they're closed in the summer. So they're pushing the power back to the grid, two-way meter, that's called a netting arrangement. And you have a netting arrangement that allows you to reverse the meter during the summer and draw on that credit throughout the winter months. And it trues up annually. That's one of the nuances that is no longer offered. If you were to be applying for solar now, the netting arrangement expires monthly. So if you generated extra credits in a summer month and you don't use them the following month, depending on your rate class, that may be foregone money, but you have a 1 year to use those credits. So basically that solar system does its work in the summer. It banks credits that you push, the power you push back to the grid, like you're suggesting, that two-way arrangement. And then we cash in those credits in the winter months, reversing the meter. But all of that requires Eversource to approve the interconnection agreement, which takes 2 or 3 months to review. And that doesn't get created until we've landed on a contractor. So.
I have one more question, Mark, on the owned system. Does the school, you think, require a service contract at that point? Or have inverters come far enough where it's just kind of a plug and play thing to replace one?
I think we should. I think we should while we're at it, getting competitive installation contract. We should also ask for, that'll be another dimension to this, ask for proposals on maintenance contracts and clarify what's included in the maintenance contract and what are their repair fees, and does it escalate with CPI, or you want to sign a long-term maintenance agreement. So that's a good point. I think we should either self-insure. I'll run the numbers either way. We'll have a set aside and or a maintenance contract, but that is an additional cost that we should like with anything. Once you install the boiler, then you enter into a maintenance agreement. We probably want that should be part of this analysis in this RFP, I would say.
So this analysis, this RFP, all of that, how do we pay for this?
Well, we have a contract with you to do the basic RFP, and we're talking about adding a couple more addendums to the RFP or a few more hours to evaluate some other options in the RFP. But we have a base contract with you. I'd have to pull it up. I don't know if it's for 20, how many hours it is to develop the RFP. And the spirit on that is that that's cost that you incur, design expense you incur up front. And then when you award the contract, the selected counterparty or contractor pays for the equipment and reimburses you for expenses you've incurred to date, namely the cost of MHR services.
Oh, that's
Depending on the
interesting.
funding limits, and when they announce steep grants,
Say that one more time.
depending on the funding limits,
Yeah,
and when they announce steep grants, this might qualify, it might be worth a shot. I don't know, I've never seen a solar award.
But it's for, one of the allowables is for municipal construction. And I would think it could potentially qualify. I'm not the guru, but
Let's see.
okay, let me
So-
take you.
So we have, just to give you numbers, I hope I got there. So this was signed, this was our August 29, 2023 agreement. So we have 35 hours, $8,500 to develop and release the RFP, complete the solicitation, qualify the contractors, host on-site bidder conference to familiarize them with the project site, the roof assemblage, specifications, facilitate a Q&A to be distributed to all bidders, compare and evaluate bid responses, and select an EPC contractor best fit for Ashford. So we have approximately $8,000 for that scope of work. And the intent is that when we issue that RFP, we stipulate in that RFP that the successful recipient bidder counterparty will reimburse you for the fees to date. So you're out of pocket up front, but you're reimbursed if we go down that road. Or if you're not reimbursed, right, because you end up buying the system, then I would suggest that the consulting fees are part of the total project cost that will definitely enjoy the 30% federal. The feds will pay 30% of the total qualifying project costs, including engineering, project management, so forth, within reason.
But that is only for the solar installation, it's not incorporated, it cannot be part of the roof.
correct. It's a separate project.
It's a separate, totally separate
Right,
project.
right. I don't think there's any federal, I'm not familiar with any federal incentives for roof projects per se, just for clean energy components.
So let me ask another thing that's a little bit of aside. Are you and Tom working to ensure that you understand, that he understands where you intend, exactly where you intend to install? Because that will affect cutting through the membrane, I don't know.
Well, it sounds like the system is possibly gonna be 100% ballasted. You may do a few tie downs in the corners,
Yeah.
Mark. Which would be penetrations on the roof,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
And then we would have a couple penetrations
Conduits.
for conduits going down the electrical service. How many penetrations? Big penetrations to take the PV system power down into the electrical room. Where are you putting the inverters? Are you doing like a micro inverter on the outside of the building under the panels, or are you doing inverters inside the building?
So, we do need penetrations. So we're gonna have these penetrations identified in the RFP. So, bringing the power down through the roof. And so we want to work hand in hand with your design and your contractor so that we're not reaching any new roof warranty, but the, you know, the flashing and the witch's cap or whatever you want to call it, so that we have a watertight penetration, that chase is installed by your roofing contractor as part of their scope of work.
I think the way the
yeah.
schedule's laying out is the roof is gonna be substantially complete. The roofing contractor probably gonna be wrapping up this project before the solar people even get onto the roof.
That's my concern, is that if we don't have that
No, I
coordinated
mean-
ahead of time.
Having said that, you get 2 warranties for the roof. One is gonna be the contractor's warranty. Whoever installs that roof, ABC contractor or XYZ, for 2 years owns the responsibility for that roof. Now, this is something added work, but they would have to do that work.
Who's that?
Whoever the roofing contractor is,
Okay,
Silktown.
oh, so that way it's done in a way where someone understands the roof that's just put in.
So you
They're
do
the
have the
experts on that.
continuity of the same contractor.
So let me ask a little,
Jeff Silversmith.
another aside, which is the air vent, the air conveyor things that are going to be replaced on the roof, right? Do we also have a sense of where they're going to impact the roof?
They're gonna be put exactly where they are right now. We're gonna eliminate 2. We're gonna change out 25 brand new ones. But
You mean the little fan units?
yeah, the little
Yes.
fan units,
Yeah, that's,
nothing. That'll,
Yes. so you
actually, the
would get-
contractor's gonna be happy because he doesn't have to take care of the old fan unit. He will just give it to those guys and they're gonna strip every piece of copper out of it that they can for beer money.
correct.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's actually easy for him. If you have those small fan units there ready to be installed, when he's doing that
So
section of
what
the roof,
happens to this money?
he is
Where does
gonna
it
be
go?
thrilled because he, like I said, he doesn't have to worry about.
Coordinate.
Okay, I just think about, 2 things. One is rework and the other is the integrity of what got installed. So when those go in, do they, well, let's just, so the warranty on the roof
These
will
won't
not be
affect the warranty,
affected
no.
because the contractor that put the roof up is going to be the one who has to make the changes for,
They
The
have
thing
to
is
pull it
always-
off anyways.
The
well,
best thing to have is have those fan units there when he's doing that section of the roof. And don't
I think so too.
put the
I
flash
didn't know how
mod.
it's gonna work.
It's a fan unit. I mean, it's one man can drop it in place. They
Simple.
fasten it, they do the sealant, and they do the connection down the wall.
Okay.
Very simple.
Okay.
And it makes life easier for me too, because I don't have to complain about him replacing fan hoods that he dented.
Very good, very good. We do know that there was basically a faulty solar inspection, solar installation that was done on the fire station roof that we're ending up paying for later on because they made holes where they drilled and everything and didn't fill them and, you know, had nails popping up and whatever. So just a little concern, little,
Shingle roof, it's best to get the
sunshine.
mounts done as they're installing the shingles, because they don't have to pull the shingle up.
Right.
They start at the bottom, they know where the mounting bracket goes, and they lay the shingle over
so sadly,
the fastener.
we're looking at a new roof there. Which is not good news. And the
So-
solar's only 10 years old on that. So. Okay, what else do we need to cover with this?
I have one question, just that this is a coordination thing. for Paul and Mark. Have we, in the engineering report or in your analysis, are you guys gonna be able to talk about drift loading and places where a solar array is a no-go?
I think I saw his, a very preliminary layout, and I think Mark is doing the right thing, if he's avoided
Those
putting
possible
solar
areas
close to,
to that clear story wall.
well, he's worried more about shading.
Shading.
The shading area is essentially the
It's the
drift,
same drift
same
load
as the
area.
drift load area. So he,
So that seems to be a non-issue. I just wanna make sure we look at that holistically.
he's gonna stay away from vertical walls that are adjacent to
Because
solar
of the
panels, because as the sun moves
And we know
around,
that that's where the drift load is
He's-
gonna end up.
yeah, he's gonna lose hours of peak production, if that's when the snow flows and also build up.
Okay, who can make a list of what is missing from the engineering report so that we kind of have a little bit of a checklist?
Before we
making
do
sure
that, I'd
we-
like to see the final engineering report.
All right,
And then I think then I think, if Mark reviews it and I review it, anybody else who wants to review it, I think we can come up with a comprehensive list if there's anything missing.
Okay. All right, and we anticipate that's gonna be out in the next few days?
Yeah.
What's today's? What year is it? It's been a blur.
2018. And can you send that to Mark as well? when you get it?
Yeah, could you just send it to all of us? That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we need to discuss today?
Mark, depending on what that engineering report says, are you pretty fixed on where you want to put the panels now, or it's subject to change?
Well, it's subject to change because, so the things we want to connect on is we want to look at your most recent we want to update your 3-year electrical usage. We want to work with Tom to avoid areas where there would be snow drift or cow wall. We want to just talk, to Mike Melody again, and just to make sure, do you guys have any plans over the next few years of electrifying anything and putting rooftop equipment up there, air handlers, RTUs? So we want to leave space available for that. And we've got a solar plan, but then when to turn it into reality, we want to make sure that, and work with your architect, that we have walkway access aisles so that you can service the roof and the drains. We're not just putting panels on top of your new drains. So it starts to eat away at my solar surface area. It starts to look like Swiss cheese pretty quickly. But that's why I wanted to protect as much area, so I have flexibility to work. That's why I really wanted to see area number 1, the main building, just to get your engineering report on that, to see if that's area that we could put some solar up. And then I think you had asked about where these inverters want to live. I like to put inverters in the building, just less wear and tear if we have space in the electrical room.
I
What do you
agree.
think?
Otherwise we got to put a roof on them, but
Yeah,
I just
well,
like to protect them from the elements and just service, if they're out of sight, out of mind, the easier they are to access, the easier they are to, you can know if they're functioning.
Are they NEMA 4 enclosures or just NEMA 1?
Should need a wall.
That's why he wants to put
Say
it
again?
this is
Are
close.
the enclosures for the inverters they're in, are they NEMA 4 or are they NEMA 1? Do you know?
I don't know. Well, they're indoor outdoor.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they have to be NEMA 4 anyway. Okay, all right. But I agree, I'd like to see them inside also, if that's possible.
Just because if they're up on the roof, no one's going to bother checking them, and before you know it, months go by and you forgot to reset it or something after a storm.
Do you have an idea of the footprint?
Oh yeah, they're about the size of a carry-on suitcase, a roller suitcase that can fit above the carry-on
Sure.
compartment above, when you collapse the handle. They're about that
Sure.
size, and we expect
Wow.
about 3 of them. So if you got wall space in your electrical room, we need to have, I think, 6 feet of clearance for them. But they're pretty compact.
So 3 will
How
cover
many
the
are you talking
entire,
about Putting up there,
3, he said.
just 3.
Oh.
3 solar panels?
No,
No,
3.
3
Three
inverters.
inverters.
Oh, inverters, I'm sorry.
When that inverter is on the wall.
Do you have a
I think
rough cut
it's 6
idea of
feet
how many
clear
solar
space to
panels?
work on. So he needs about 7.5.
I do. Trying to download an image here on that, but we have a layout. I mean, okay, just for kicks, I could try to
Just
figure
rough cut.
out panels. So let's assume we're using panels that are about 400 watts, and we want to build a
200.
200. Let's see, divided by 400. I'm about 620 panels.
Thank you.
So, but you're absolutely right, John, that if we do go down the path of ownership, like with anything, we want to contemplate service agreements or reserves, because I'm going to show you economics that shows all the money you're going to make owning them for the next, and we're no longer buying them for 20 years, we're buying 25-year production warranties. So there's 2 things. There's the actual warranty that it doesn't fall apart. And there's also production warranties. How, like a battery, doesn't hold as much charge as it gets older. But so we could also buy those warranties. But we'd be probably forecasting 25 years of useful life. But over those 25 years, we should, before we get too excited with the revenue, carve out some set asides for maintenance and or a maintenance agreement. So we can do that.
How much-
Do you expect that, I mean, obviously, it's not gonna perform at year 5, 10, 15, 20 at the same level as year 1. Do you expect some decrease in performance?
Yes, absolutely. We did create an analysis about 2 years ago on that, but a minimum of 0.5% a year. So it produces less by about 1% every 2 years. It will degrade.
And that's due to what? Just normal wear?
It's the sun, which creates the energy, also degrades the panel.
Got it.
Now, to use the term service factor, have you service factored it enough so that over that 20-year span, for example, we'll still cover our needs?
Well, that's a very good question. And that's sort of, the question is sort of, what is your needs? Are we going to continue to be on oil for heating? Or are we going to move towards electrification and offset the fossil fuels and replace, your heating source from using a VRF or highly efficient electric heating source? So those are sort of the questions. Or are the school buses going to become electric in years to come and you need to plug in? So there's some questions there. But by and large, we are moving towards more efficient for what you do use. Our lighting continues to get more efficient every 10 years. Refrigeration, we talked about doing an energy walkthrough, but they're more efficient IC motors for compressors and refrigeration controls, which I think you have, actually. But
What would the warranty be on the roof?
Oh, it's well, we did a base bid of 20, but we didn't add alternate to make it a third. We want to get the 30-year roof.
All right, just
So
want to
there
make sure
might
that
be a
the,
small increase
I want to
because
make sure the solar panels don't outlive the roof.
I got that. Don't worry. That's a no-brainer.
Thank
Mark,
you.
I have another question, Mark, regarding the inverters and you mentioned batteries. Do we really require batteries if we're going to be plowing that generated electricity during the summer back into the grid and then just taking down our credit?
so batteries aren't part of the scope at this time,
Okay.
but Eversource and the world is moving towards storage to reduce especially these demand charges. I don't know that you have significant demand charges, but batteries are a measure that's incentivized under the federal program for 30%. And there is an Eversource incentive whereby what happens is with these batteries, Eversource wants you to discharge them to the grid in the summer to reduce brownouts during peak demand times. That's a program that schools are happy to play with because they tend not to be occupied that much in the summer. So they dispatch their energy to the grid and they get paid a lot for it. And if you end up owning your solar panels, you're generating power for free pretty soon after you've paid it off. So it might be interesting to look at storing that power into these batteries and using it to pulse back to the grid to generate revenue. But that's not in the scope at the moment. So I don't think you need, unless you want to use a battery system in lieu of a generator or standby power.
Yes.
But that's not currently in scope, but it's interesting to
So,
talk.
yes.
We have a generator.
But we had never talked about batteries before. That's what.
No, Fred, you-
Curious.
Pay the generator. Pay the prisons.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Sure, yep, my pleasure.
All right, so I think we're at a point where we're about ready to wrap up, correct?
I agree.
So we're gonna get the new report, the completed report. It's gonna be sent out electronically for review by the group. We're gonna set up the meeting with regarding the solar. And that Mark is gonna set up. And then we're gonna reconvene. as a group here to go, let's find this, make sure the final report is signed off, correct? And at that point in time,
Jeff
do we
Silversmith.
go to the Board of Selectmen for any additional approvals, anything like that?
I think you're gonna have to meet with Tom Rowe to see what the financials are. Because we gotta, if you go to the selectmen and you decide to purchase, you're gonna have to go again, I don't know how.
Well, yeah, I don't mean, it depends on how much money the town has, but at a minimum, we'd have to go to town meeting, right?
Bear with me, I was thinking about something else for a second. At a minimum, we have to go to a town meeting for what?
If we wanted to pay for the solar array.
Yes,
I
we have to do
think,
that.
I think you might wanna wait till that, where you wanna go until you've had that meeting with Tom Rowe.
Oh, yeah, well,
They
there's
find
no
out
way
exactly
there
where
is
that-
no way we'll
Yeah.
be going out to a town meeting on this in the
We
very
also
near
have to set
future.
up interviews.
I'm sorry?
Set
We're
up
setting up
interviews.
Oh, that's right, the
Yeah.
interviews, interviews. Okay. Engineering report,
Yes,
interviews, meeting.
Yeah.
Sign offs.
yep.
Those three
Okay.
big roads, yeah.
Does that make sense,
Would
Chris?
anybody have any objections to doing interviews via Zoom?
No,
That way we can do them during the day.
Whatever works for the group.
Is the next selectmen's meeting, we have a selectmen's meeting and we're scheduling a town meeting.
Yes.
So that's gonna take up that night, unless you wanna meet another night.
I think we would do a special meeting, right, for the interviews.
And if we could do it during the day,
Yeah,
So my anticipation is that the group will do the interviews and make a recommendation to the
absolutely,
Board of Selectmen.
exactly,
And then you guys would award the contract.
right. So in terms of the interviews, I don't need to be there, is that correct?
I don't-
Because the
you weren't-
committee
you-
is,
You weren't there for the last, for when we interviewed the architects. So no, you don't have to be there,
let me know if you want me to be there, how's
but
that?
you're certainly welcome.
Bill was,
Okay,
I don't think Bill made it, did he?
I thought he was there.
and the clerk of the, actually, the clerk of the works is going to be interacting with you and me, correct? Who's the clerk
Mostly
of,
her.
with her, with me,
Mostly-
with you?
Mostly her,
With me.
like,
Whatever you want on your side.
Oh, no,
I just wanna make
I'll
sure,
just be there, so
I'm sorry,
I'll be in the building, so,
yes, you will,
yeah,
except for when you're gonna work here, right?
right.
That should be fun.
I think the committee's gonna wanna see the clerk of the works reports, so that there's a problem, we can work to address it quickly.
Absolutely,
Yes,
we'll make sure that those get to where they need. to
Obviously,
get.
we're not gonna be there to talk
but yeah,
to him every day like they will be, but
Right, right,
when he generates, or he or she generates a report, I think the report should go out to the entire committee.
you guys have a copy of the agreement that the attorney drew up? So you can see what.
I was gonna say, I know I have it,
I think I sent it,
I think you sent it to everybody.
right. So you can see
You
what
might
the
have even
clerk's
sent it to God, I don't
responsibilities are and to who.
Yeah.
I even sent it to you.
okay,
I think that covers the high points,
we'll have to come up with some questions.
yes.
okay,
Can I get some guidance on setting up the meeting with the state? Is there roughly, are people available late next week or any consensus on a good time?
I'm not gonna be available on Thursday of next week.
Or Thursday of this week.
Oh, no, it's Thursday of this week. Sorry, what time zone am I in?
You have something tomorrow,
Jeez,
you have
Joss.
something Wednesday, you have something Thursday,
Thank you for taking care of me,
Friday, you're gonna take your car keys, so you have to stay home.
thank you.
I think it's very important that Catherine and Cindy are available for the meeting with Mark.
Right.
The rest of us, if we can make it, we'll make it. This is kind of what we agreed to.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So that's less for you to coordinate, Mark.
I'm thinking
Yeah,
that I
I'll
really
finagle
would,
my
I would
schedule.
love to have Tom there as well, because I think for you to hear what is being said, but
the state,
yeah,
they have their own language too.
They do.
Yeah.
I know, but I was able to follow when we were time with the other people, so that worked out okay. We learn as we go. So,
Okay, once we do all this, then we're ready to get a contractor. Is that how it works?
say that one more time.
Once we get all this put into place and we have a clerk that works, our next move is to get a contractor.
Yes,
We're gonna
absolutely.
Yes,
bid
RFP for the
right.
contractor.
We have to put out there.
Yeah.
And
So
the
we're still in
the bottom line is to have that contractor in place, the building, that's getting to the culmination, building contractor in place for about May. Because they're gonna start, they wanna start bringing in, getting the materials, getting them
We don't
ordered,
have
et
the
cetera, et
material
cetera.
issues we had 2 years ago, so they have a couple weeks they can get the material.
Okay,
And we don't have anything that's
Crazy.
really unusual, yeah. This whole roof is
That's
built out
good.
of about 5 different pieces.
And there may be some work that they can do preliminarily too.
Yeah, they may bring the plumber in to start
Yeah.
installing some drains and,
They could potentially do some work on the chimney.
When is
I'm
the-
not thrilled about that.
What about the plumbing and the electrical? When do they get done? Before,
Sometimes they bring
Kinda
in the
as they
plumber a
go.
little bit earlier, they'll start like having to do a section
Hmm.
before they start the roofing.
I'll put up that ladder that would make everybody, that ladder.
Actually, ladders take a bit of time, they're custom built.
They gotta order them.
Custom built.
I'll have Seth weld one.
Masonry.
Christine, should I work with you on finding a date then?
It's not pretty.
What was that question? I don't think we heard that.
I'm just looking for a point of contact at Ashford to coordinate the call with the state. Who should I coordinate with? Christine?
Christine
What?
and Jen Truax for the school.
Okay.
You have Jen's contact information?
Yes.
Can you send it to Mark?
Yeah, he has it. She knows my schedule.
Got it. Thank you.
all right,
All right.
this was a good meeting. Thank
Was a
you, it
good
was
meeting.
very enlightening.
and somebody could tell
Someone
me
make a
where
motion to
it's
adjourn,
going.
please?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Aye,
Second,
yes.
All in favor?
all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
I'm good.
Yes.
Aye, thank you very much. It was very
Thanks, Mark.
informative.
See you again.
Good
Have a
night.
nice
Thank
evening,
you, everybody.
Thanks for
See you,
coming.
John.
Bye. Thank you, Mark.
Nice meeting you, Mark.
Nice to see you. Thank you, Catherine. Bye-bye.